Mike is on the mic with Mike, Richmond's premier business radio platform.
Judge, how you judges say we going corporate? We just corner boys with the corner office. Cap table, what your split says. Not that cap table, boy, we live this.
Showing how business can make the community better. No one does it better than Mike King Biz. On the mic with Mike. Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike. Mike King here. This is the premier business radio program in the RVA area. I'm your host, Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. What we do here is we talk to game changers. We talk about how business helps society be better. You can follow me on social platforms, On the Mic with Mike RVA, as well as Mike King Biz. I got my man, Damon Reynolds, here with us. We have a special guest. All right, so really quickly, Damon Reynolds is going to introduce himself. People who follow the program know that we go back a long way. This is a young brother out here doing some amazing things, and he came to me with a game changer. Yes, he did. All right, sir.
Well, Mike, I'm super excited, man, because one, I think we have somebody who is just a great thought-provoking leader. He's an educator. He's been known as a certified school psychologist. He's a doctor. He's the CEO of his own school, and he is bringing the knowledge and so much wisdom for us to hear today about the liberation of African people. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dr. Umar Johnson.
Dr. Johnson, welcome to the program, sir.
Peace and Pan-Africanism. Glad to be with you.
Yes, sir. Well, Dr. Umar, I hear congratulations first are in order, and I want to say what an honor it is to talk to you, but congratulations on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy renovations, all system renovations being finished. Can you talk about just your excitement around that?
Yes, indeed. It's amazing how divine timing works, because this evening I'll be keynoting the 136th birthday celebration of the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who was born today, August the 17th of 1887. And I find it really ironic that we completed the renovations on August the 11th, and this will be my first public speech since we finally crossed the finish line and completed all the major renovations at the school. So at this point, we just have to get an HVAC inspection, because that was the final system that needed to be repaired, and we just finished that. Electric has been done for some time. Plumbing has been done for some time. The sprinkler system, the fire system, the burglar system, all the other systems were already done for some time. It was the HVAC that gave us the longest amount of challenge. And now that we're done with that, once that gets inspected and we get our certificate of occupancy, we're going to go ahead and paint the school, lay the floors, and then it's time for the community grand opening. And if all goes well, we're looking to host our first incoming class of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade Black boys next August 17th, Marcus Garvey's birthday, 2024. But it's just amazing how it lined up, you know, with Garvey's birthday being the day and this being my first speech since we finished the school. And also, ironically, tomorrow I'll be in Rochester, New York to keynote a children's youth program, summer program graduation. And Frederick Douglass, as you know, he's buried in Rochester. So I get to visit his grave tomorrow. So Marcus Garvey today, Frederick Douglass tomorrow, my first 2 stops after completing a school named in their honor. I think it's more than a coincidence, brothers.
Dr. Omar, I got a question. So we'll follow the journey for you opening the school. As a visionary leader, when you had the vision, you went to a number of places, tried to make it happen. Now you end up with your location, school opening. Talk about how that is when you have all the naysayers along the way, but you keep your eye out there on the end prize to make it happen, to get to the school opening and have it here on Garvey's birthday.
You know, as a therapist, you know, one of the things I've learned in therapy, and one of the things I try to offer to my therapy clients, life coaching clients, and that is when you have a purpose in your life, it's that much easier to overcome the obstacles. It becomes that much easier to remain focused. It becomes that much easier to ignore the detractors. So I've kind of grown immune to them. You know, in the very beginning, when we first started raising money in the spring of 2014 and the detractors came, you know, I tried to defend myself. I tried to defend the FDMG Academy campaign because I thought people were interested in the truth. So I was so naive at that time. I said, well, if I just tell them everything will be all right. And I quickly learned that that was not true, that many of them were not after the truth. They were after slander. and they were after character desecration. And so once I realized it was no longer about the truth, which was an epiphany that kind of dawned upon me around 2016 after 2 years of slander, that's when I just stopped paying attention to that. 95% of all African people in the world love and support Dr. Umar. So at the end of the day, in the larger scheme of things, that 5% of distraction, they're really not relevant anyway.
Well, Dr. Umar, part of that 95% I'm understanding will be right here in Petersburg, Virginia, this Sunday for your lecture. And I know Sister Alnisa, I want to say thank you and shout out her for really just making this happen. So talk about, of course, we're in a pivotal time in America right now. There's a lot going on politically. There's a lot going on in schools, and you're coming to give a lecture specifically to parents. So can you just talk about what the purpose will be on Sunday and what people can expect?
Absolutely. And I want to echo your praise to Sister Alnisa, because she was the one who made it happen. Without her, I would still not be coming to Petersburg. I've never been to Petersburg before. I've been to Richmond about 4 times, but never Petersburg. So I'm looking forward to it. And all of it was the work of that young sister there. So shout out to her. And we just want to remind everybody that lecture in Petersburg will be Sunday, August the 20th, and it will be from 4 p.m. until 8, the program. The doors open up at 3. The program begins at 4. Dr. Umar will take the stage at 5. Please disregard the Eventbrite. It says that it's sold out. Free events can't be sold out. If you wasn't able to register, show up anyway. If there's space, you will be allowed in. In my experience of being a public speaker all around the planet, I've learned that we got to be careful about saying free events are sold out, because as you know, people will register and they won't show up. And so we don't want a situation where brothers and sisters want to get in and can't because someone else registered and didn't show up. So don't worry about that registration. If you want to see Dr. Umar, come on up. And don't worry about the 5 p.m. cutoff either. If there's space inside, we're going to let people in. I don't want people who never had a chance to see me in that part of Virginia to be denied simply because the registration has, maxed the number. We can't go off of that. About 40% of people who register for free events don't show up. So please show up. Don't worry about the Eventbrite notice. With regard to the lecture, because it's time for school to start back up, and I'm not sure if they're already back in school in that part of Virginia or not, but nonetheless, it's still the beginning of the school year. And so I want to review with Black parents in Virginia some of the rules and some of the tools that they need to protect their children from the special education onslaught in the ADHD hustle, because it is in fact a hustle. Special education is a weapon of mass destruction. ADHD is a weapon of mass destruction in the Black community. And of course, that ADHD diagnosis will likely lead to a prescription drug recommendation. And that is also a weapon of mass destruction. So one of the first things I'm going to teach Black parents in Petersburg on Sunday, August the 20th, and that address is 464 Burn Street, the Resiliency Hub, 464 Burn, BYRNE, 464 Burn Street. But the first lesson of that lecture is going to be learning how to say no as a Black parent. And the reason that's so important, good brothers, is in my work in the schools, and I've been working in the schools for about 25 years now, our parents don't feel comfortable telling educators no. We don't feel comfortable telling the teacher, I don't think my son has a reading disability, so I will not be signing consent for him to receive an evaluation. We don't feel comfortable telling the principal, I don't think my son has ADHD. I simply feel that this school doesn't have enough activity involved that allows these Black boys to work out their natural God-given Black energy. Our parents aren't comfortable saying no in the face of academic authority. And I am here to tell you that they better learn how to start saying no, because when you say yes, you put into motion a set of circumstances that's going to put your child in a special education classroom, which is almost a guarantee that he will not graduate high school on time if he graduates at all.
Dr. Umar, a question. I'm 63 years old, and I know for a fact parents didn't question school officials. There was no way you were going to question them. Has it gotten better?
I don't think so. I would say it's gotten a little better. To say it hasn't gotten better at all, which means I would have to admit that all my work over the past 25 years has been in vain. And that's not true, because I do hear the stories. I hear the good stories. I get the testimonials. I get the texts, the emails, the inboxes. At the lectures, parents come up to me and tell me how they use what I told them to use and how it successfully led to them protecting their child. So yes, is getting better in some respects, but at the same time, it's kind of getting worse. It's hard to describe it because even though I hear the promise stories at the same time, I'm also hearing about some of the tragedies that continue to go on. And for the life of me, brothers, I don't understand it because I have probably thousands of videos on YouTube at this point talking about how to fight the school system effectively and legally. And our parents keep on making the same mistakes time after time. And some of these parents who are making the same mistakes over and over, they are supporters of my work. So you've been listening to me for 20 years and you still don't get this right. So it's kind of perplexing. I think some people hear me, but I'm not sure if they're listening.
One of the things I know that you'll be doing this Sunday is reviewing your book, The Black Parent Advocate. And
Yes, sir.
I wanted to raise something from you from your text. I had a chance to listen to a video, and I just want you to hear this. It was very powerful. Controlling your child's school-based narrative is important because whoever controls the narrative controls the outcomes, interventions, and options for success. So can you just elaborate more on that for those parents who still may be trying to figure out how do I go ahead with really determining what I should do with my child?
Absolutely. That is probably one of the best questions I've ever been asked, brother, when you deal with the psychoacademic Holocaust. When we talk about controlling the narrative, let me put it this way. When the school asks permission to evaluate your child, in essence, they are asking for permission to control the narrative. A psychological evaluation is like a criminal investigation. Let's say somebody just got shot. We don't know who did it. So the forensics experts and the police investigators, their job is to do what? Reconstruct the crime scene. Find out who shot this person and why they shot this person. The special ed evaluation is the same thing. This child can't read. So they want to do what? Create the narrative. Why isn't he reading? And is it possible for him to learn how to read? And if it is possible for him to learn how to read, can he do it without special education? So when you sign permission for the child to be evaluated, you just gave the school the legal authority to do what? Define the narrative. Their narrative is what? He can't read because he has a learning disability. And the only way we're going to be able to teach him how to read is to give him an IEP and lock him up in special ed jail. That's the school's narrative. But what's the parent's narrative? The parent's narrative is the reason my fifth grader is reading on the second grade level is because he goes to a school that has historically underachieved since I was a child at that school. The reason he can't read is his teacher is a long-term substitute who is not trained in how to teach children how to read. The reason he can't read is because he was suspended from school so long or so often in the third grade that he wasn't in the classroom long enough to learn how to read. The reason he can't read is he had a first-year teacher straight out of We Hate Black Children University who can barely read herself. The reason he can't read is because he didn't go to kindergarten. The reason he can't read is he went to a preschool that was more of a daycare that was all about toys and cartoons, not about numbers and letters. The reason my son can't read is because he hasn't been taught, not because he cannot learn. And that right there, gentlemen, that's the fight. That's the tug of war. Whose narrative is ultimately going to win? And you know who dictates that? The parent dictates that. Because if you don't sign that permission to evaluate, the school can't force their narrative. And instead, you can force your narrative and make it clear my son can learn how to read and he don't need special ed to learn how to read. But in order to do that, you're going to have to give him a good teacher. You're going to have to give him tutoring. You're going to have to spend some of your Title I money to help improve his skills. You're going to have to stop criminalizing him, suspending him. You're going to have to stop making him like he's an unwanted person in this school building. In other words, who's going to take the blame? Is the school going to take the blame or are the parents going to take the blame? And I can tell you, the school will never take responsibility for their role in miseducating our children. It has to be the parents. And that's why these lectures that I do, like the one I'm going to do in Petersburg Sunday, are so important.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Dr. Umar Johnson. Here with Damon Reynolds, Mike King. This is the Mike King Biz Radio Network. Very quickly, sir, I know your time is tight. You got a lot of things to do, but I want to touch on when you talked about parents moving their kids to an area for a better education. what the problem is there, because the narrative has always been, I'm going to move you to a predominantly white area. I'm going to move you here because the schooling will be better. Touch on your idea when I heard you drop some nuggets of knowledge on that.
The academics may be better when you take a Black child from an inner city school to a suburban public, charter, or private school. The academics may be better. The setting may be better, but the environment will often become more toxic because you just went from the pan into the fire. Because those white folks at that private school, that charter school, that public school, the reason they live in the suburbs in the first place is to get away from Black people. So you brought your son out here to us, who we do not want, but have to take them because the law doesn't allow us to discriminate openly when it comes to race anymore. So guess what's going to happen? He's more likely to be recommended for special ed. He's more likely to be suspended. He's more likely to be forced into an ADHD diagnosis. He's more likely to end up on prescription medication. Why? Because white folks are even more intolerant of our children. See, in the inner city, our children are victimized by low expectations and poor instruction. Low expectations and poor instruction. In the suburbs, they are victimized by class and race. If it's a middle class kid attending an upper middle class or elite private school, or if it is a quote unquote poor Black kid attending a working class white suburban charter school, public or private school, he's going to be victimized by race and class. And so parents often have to pick their poison. And if it's me, and I just had this conversation on my Black parent teleconference the night before last, if it's me, I would rather leave my child in an inner city where I know his racial self-esteem will not be destroyed, his self-concept will not be abused, his self-confidence will not end up underdeveloped because of the verbal and social abuse he's going to face at the hands of white children. And so for me, I'm leaving my kid in the city, because I can work with his academics at home. I can get him a tutor outside of school. See, if you're the parent of a Black child in the inner city, you're still a homeschooling parent because you can't leave it up to the school to get your child where they need to be. So I can supplement the ghetto education. But if I let my child get emotionally abused and racially destroyed psychologically at that white suburban charter school, he may never recover from that. His self-esteem may be impaired for life. And we see this when we look at Black kids who graduate from white schools. They're socially awkward. They don't know how to interact with Black children. They often want to imitate white people. The Black girls want their hair blonde. The Black boys want a white girl. There are social and psychological consequences when you stick your Black children in these white schools. And I don't think Black parents are conscious enough of the fallout that comes from putting our children in those schools. I've seen damage after 1 year. I've seen damage after 2 or 3 years. And some of our kids are put in those schools for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years.
There you go, Dr. Johnson. One last time, sir, as you make your way out, the information about the event this weekend, Demar Reynolds.
Yes, so Dr. Johnson will be at the Resiliency Hub in Petersburg this Sunday from 4 to 8 p.m. That address is 464 Burn Street, Petersburg, Virginia. And he will be doing a lecture, as you heard, about the back to school basics for Black parents. And you'll also be doing a book signing, correct?
Absolutely. For parents who don't have a copy of Black Parent Advocate, I suggest they come and get a copy, not because it's my book, because it's the only book in print designed for Black parents that teaches them how to navigate the world of mental health and special education. And it is a reference book. So if the school wants to put your kid in special ed, you don't know how to respond, the letter is in there. If your child needs special ed but is not receiving quality service, the letter's in there. If your child has a speech and language problem and you want to get him evaluated for speech therapy, the letter's in there. If your child doesn't pledge the flag and the school has a problem with their constitutionally protected right not to pledge the flag, the letter is in there. 95% of my advocacy work with Black parents is teaching them how to navigate the system, how to respond in print to what the school is trying to do to their child. And in that book is nothing but letters. All they have to do is find the problem and reproduce the letter. I also teach them how to understand the psychological evaluation report. I teach them how to understand the IEP. I teach them how to understand the academic and behavioral intervention plan. I have a whole chapter on how to deal with behavior without medication, and another chapter on how to conduct yourself at school meetings, because a lot of our parents make mistakes in that area too. And if they need to reach me by phone, anybody can text me. That includes the flyer for Sunday as well. And that's 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. And I would be remiss in my duties, gentlemen, if I didn't also let people know that the day after Petersburg, when we celebrate Gabriel Prosser's revolution, which should have taken place on August the 30th in Richmond, had he not been snitched out by two house Negroes. But the very next day, on August the 21st, we will be celebrating the most successful slave insurrection in American history, led by the prophet Nat Turner. And for brothers and sisters who want to join me, not only Sunday in Petersburg, but also Monday in Druryville, Virginia, please go to natturnerlibrary.com and make your reservation for the Nat Turner Ward Trail. If you've never taken the tour, you want to take that tour, and I'll be celebrating my birthday on that day as well, August the 21st.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Umar Johnson. Sir, thank you for your time.
Thank you, brother.
Keep up the good fight. Doing Philly proud. Appreciate it. On the mic
Thanks
with
a
Mike,
lot.
Jamon Reynolds.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.
Take
All
care.
right, brother. Be
Thank
safe.
you.
All right.
Cool. All right, man. Let me get this lead in here.
Where's that going?
Let's go to the well, I will go ahead and send it over to you just a little bit.
Okay. Hey, how you doing?
So, Damon, this is Beth Murphy. She runs Ryan and Stratton.
Hey, Devon.
Okay, I'm Demond Reynolds. Nice to
Nice
meet
to
you.
meet
So
you.
he is a journalist. He was with 8 News,
Oh, okay.
but he likes he's a religious man.
Oh,
So he likes that part of the story as opposed to what you see every night.
Yeah.
He's always asked journalists, how do you do it every single night?
oh, yeah. I can't watch the news.
Bad story.
Yeah. Yes.
Bad story.
That's why I do what I do.
Yeah,
Try to
that's
do what I do.
wonderful. Well, good luck on
Well, it's a
that.
pleasure meeting you.
Nice to
Yeah, I
meet
won't take
you.
up too much of your time.
All right,
All right, Mike.
thank
Appreciate it.
I'll send it over to you.
Yep.
Thank you. Let's hear from this side.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna put my
All
cards
right.
down over here.
You are the James Brown of people. You are everywhere. You
You're everywhere.
No, I take some pictures of videos, but it's just me. I'm not running a whole institution. Yeah.
I'm
That's-
happy I've got really good people with me, that's for sure.
You do have a crew.
I've
you're-
got a great crew.
And the thing is, everything, how people view you guys is amazing too.
Well, it's partners like ships like this that help let people view us positively, so. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm still hanging in there,
Yeah.
talking to people every single day. I never would have thought this would have turned into this, but it has.
Pretty incredible
It,
that you hustle.
yeah, I've been knocking on. It seems like I've been here forever, and I only came to Richmond in 2014.
Wow.
And I knew a lot of people, but really, the Danielle, it just really took it to another level.
Yeah.
Because with that one, it turned into when she had me go into the political world.
Mhm.
Like, okay, just interview these people. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to Chris Winslow.
Yeah.
And even though I came from the political world, which I still love, and these guys here, they wouldn't care if I was in here. What I'm talking about, but they would not do the thing, whether it's education, free mammograms, or whatever.
Right, right.
But the ability, I tell people, I learned from the Republicans.
Mhm.
You pay, you say what you want,
That's right.
and that has been the best thing going. Kid, that has been